following is a feature presentation of the Replay Sports Channel, the home for great games. This telecast is copyrighted by the WFL for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions or accounts of the game without the WFL's consent is prohibited.
Patrick Mahomes just threw for 271 yards, hit Marvin Harrison Jr. for 2 highlight reel touchdowns, and is currently demanding a trade from a 2-10 team.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. You know, you look at a massive stack of sources like the ones we have today, game previews, injury updates, some deep cut statistics, and like these highly guarded insider rumors.
Oh, the rumors are wild right now.
They really are. And you realize pretty quickly that December football is a completely different sport than September football.
It is. I mean, in September, everyone is selling a vision, right?
Right.
By December, the injuries have mounted, the schemes are on tape, and you're either built for the cold or you are, well, you're just getting exposed.
Exactly. And we are zeroing in on the WFL Week 15 slate. So that's December 13th and 14th, 2025. The whole mission for this deep dive is to map out the exact stakes of this pivotal weekend for you.
Yeah, cut through all the noise.
Right. We are cutting through the noise of the schedule to look at who is fighting for a championship, who is fighting to save their job, and who is just fighting for pure revenge. Okay, so let's unpack this.
Where are we kicking things off today?
Well, we are starting with the most counterintuitive primetime game on the board. Because if you want to understand the balance of power at the top of the league next year, you first have to examine the sheer chaos at the bottom right now.
Or you're talking about Saturday night?
Saturday night, Los Angeles hosting Pittsburgh.
Right. The 210 Wildcats taking on the 210 Maulers.
Which is just mind-boggling when you think about it. I mean, when the schedule makers circled this game months ago, it was supposed to be a massive showcase.
Oh, absolutely. Patrick Mahomes versus Dak Prescott, prime time.
Prime time. And instead, it's a battle for the #1 overall draft pick. You've got the entire sports media apparatus tracking Miami quarterback Cam Ward and Colorado's two-way phenom Travis Hunter.
The sweepstakes.
Yeah, the sweepstakes. It's like a bizarre high-stakes poker match where the goal is actually to lose the hand so you can win the jackpot.
Well, what's fascinating here is the contrast in how these two organizations are actually managing their collapse. Like, look at Pittsburgh.
Okay.
They are surrendering over 400 yards a game. 402.2 to be exact.
It's just brutal.
It's terrible. They have the absolute worst run defense in the league. And yet, there is a weird sort of clarity to their situation right now.
Wait, clarity? I mean, their franchise quarterback wants out. How is that clarity?
But that's exactly it. It's totally transparent. Head coach Mike Tomlin has already been told he will be let go at the end of the season.
Oh, so they're just ripping the Band-Aid off.
Exactly. They amputated the limb. They are starting over. And as for Mahomes exercising that clause in his contract to seek a trade, you really have to look at the physical toll of his season.
Yeah.
Last week against a really good 9-3 San Diego team, Mahomes was brilliant. I mean, he gave them a lead late in the fourth quarter before Josh Allen engineered that game-winning 75-yard drive. Right.
But Mahomes took 7 sacks in that game.
7 sacks. So, wait, I have to push back on this whole trade demand narrative a bit based on that.
Yeah.
With Mahomes absorbing that kind of punishment, like, is his demand for a trade just a calculated protest about having a losing record? Or is it literally just a physical survival instinct at this point?
I mean, it is entirely about survival. When a quarterback is taking 7 sacks, the internal clock just shatters.
You can't even think straight.
Right. You aren't playing the scheme anymore. You are just bracing for impact. Mahomes realizes that another year behind a porous line with a rebuilding defense is going to drastically shorten his career.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pittsburgh knows it too, which is why the break is going to be clean. But then, you know, you look across the field at Los Angeles and it is just a toxic cloud of uncertainty.
Yeah, the sources indicate the Storm brothers who own the Wildcats, they are keeping incredibly quiet about head coach Jim Harbaugh's future right now.
Literally nothing. There is no public vote of confidence, but there's no firing either. It's just radio silence.
And that silence bleeds into the locker room. You can see it on the field, honestly. Los Angeles has the worst offense in the league. They are managing just 256.4 yards a game.
Ouch.
Their run offense is practically non-existent. And look at Dak Prescott. He just came back from a foot injury that sidelined him since, what, week 6?
Yeah, week 6. And foot injuries for a quarterback are devastating for mechanics. You can't plant your base.
Precisely. And what happens when a quarterback can't plan and maneuver in the pocket?
He gets swallowed up.
He gets swallowed up. Last week against Detroit, Dak threw an interception and took 5 sacks and a 17-10 loss.
Wow.
So think about the stakes of this Saturday night game for you as a viewer. The team that loses essentially secures the right to draft a generational talent like Ward or Hunter. A single game between two 10 teams will dictate the draft capital and power dynamics of the entire WFL next season.
It's crazy. But while Pittsburgh and LA are looking at next April, let's look at the teams desperately clinging to this December.
The bubble.
The chaotic middle of the pack. The playoff bubble.
This is where the pressure is arguably the highest. Because if you are 2-10, you know who you are.
Right, you've accepted it.
Yeah, but if you are on the bubble, every single snap carries the weight of a season.
Let's start with Atlanta. They're sitting at 7-5, hosting DC, who is 5-7. And right now, DC actually holds the final American playoff spot.
And they look really dangerous.
Very. CJ Stroud just put up a 324-yard MVP-level performance against Tampa Bay.
He was on fire.
He was. And on the other side, you've got Atlanta trying to seal a playoff spot for their coach, D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah,
but they are coming off a 31-10 blowout loss to New Jersey, where Joe Burrow threw 3 interceptions.
The variance is wild.
It's exactly what I was thinking. Stroud is throwing for over 300 yards, and Burrow is turning the ball over 3 times. So here's where it gets really interesting. Are these bubble teams actually a threat to make a deep run, or are they just failing slightly less frequently than the teams beneath them?
Well, if we look at the mechanics of December football, it is entirely about mistake minimization.
Right.
The cold weather sets in, the margins shrink, and the team that blinks first loses. You mentioned Atlanta's blowout loss to New Jersey. If you just looked at the rushing stats, you would think Atlanta dominated that game.
Really?
Yeah, they outrushed New Jersey 150-111.
Hold on. How do you win the ground game by 40 yards, sustain those drives, and still get blown off the field by 21 points? The math on that doesn't add up.
It adds up when you factor in the turnover mechanics. Atlanta committed 5 turnovers.
Oh, 5. Good grief.
Yeah, you can march up and down the field all you want, but if you hand the ball away, the yardage is completely hollow. The defining moment of that game was an 86-yard fumble return by Ramondre Stevenson.
That's a backbreaker.
It's a massive, uncontrollable momentum swing.
Yeah.
You simply cannot survive 5 turnovers in a December playoff race.
Though that will say, it is worth noting from the injury reports that CeeDee Lamb and Puka Nacua are back for Atlanta this week.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, getting your top targets back changes the geometry of the field for Burrow, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It forces the defense to respect the deep third of the field again, which should actually help their run game even more. But, you know, if you want to talk about a game that hinges entirely on schematic mismatches, look at the other bubble game.
Denver hosting Cleveland.
Yes.
Denver is 6-6, clinging to the 6th spot in the National Conference. Cleveland is 4-8. And Denver features the league's most punishing run offense, churning out 146.5 yards a game.
A machine.
Derrick Henry is running like a man possessed.
Right.
He racked up 130 rushing yards last week alone.
And you are pairing that against Cleveland's red zone defense, which is historically bad. Like, they're allowing opponents to score 97.3% of the time they enter the red zone.
97.3%.
Yeah.
That isn't a defense. That's a turnstile.
Yeah.
I mean, why is Cleveland so uniquely terrible inside the 20-yard line?
It really comes down to space and personnel. When an offense gets inside the 20, the field shrinks.
Right.
So defensive coordinators usually rely on tighter windows in the secondary and aggressive linebackers to plug the gaps. But Cleveland struggles with point-of-attack physicality.
Ah, I see.
So when you put a downhill bruising runner like Derrick Henry against a defense that can't anchor at the line of scrimmage, it is a mathematical nightmare. Once Denver crosses the 20, they don't even need to pass. They just lean on their mass.
Which actually leads to a really funny human element in the sources we were looking at. the squeaky wheel mechanic.
Oh, the Mike Evans thing.
Yeah. Denver receiver Mike Evans openly complained to head coach Kevin Stefanski about his lack of targets. And what happens? Last week against Chicago, he gets heavily featured, pulling in 99 yards and a touchdown.
That tells you everything you need to know about the desperation of the bubble.
Doesn't it?
You use whatever leverage you have, whether it's scheme, brute force, or just walking into the coach's office and demanding the ball just to survive the week.
So we move from the teams fighting to survive to the heavyweights, the teams that are already operating with playoff execution. Chicago at San Diego.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Both teams are 9-3. Chicago is the number 2 seed in the American Conference. San Diego is the number 1 seed in the National Conference.
This is a heavy-duty dress rehearsal for a championship run.
For sure. So let's break down Chicago. Baker Mayfield, fresh off being named to the All-Star team, as game MVP, engineered 2 surgical fourth-quarter drives to beat Denver 25-19.
He was incredibly clutch.
Yeah, and they leaned heavily on their backfield duo of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, who chewed up 183 rushing yards. But there's a catch. They just lost star receiver George Pickens for 3 weeks to an injury.
That is a tough loss. And San Diego is built on a very similar foundation. Josh Allen, who was an offensive MVP finalist this year, drove them 75 yards for a game-winning touchdown pass to Jalen Tolbert with, a minute and a half left against Pittsburgh?
Yeah, 1.34 left on the clock.
Right. Plus, San Diego's defense generated 7 sacks in that game.
Which makes me wonder, you have 2 heavyweights here. It feels like watching 2 boxers in the 12th round abandon the jab and just throw heavy body blows.
Good analogy.
But with Pickens out, is Baker Mayfield's late-game magic going to run out against a San Diego defense that just buried Mahomes into the turf 7 times?
Yeah, and this raises an important question about what late-game offensive identity actually looks like in the WFL right now. Like, why are both of these teams sitting at 9-3?
Okay, why?
It's not just elite quarterback play. It's because both of these teams have the rare ability to lean heavily on the run when they are trailing late in the fourth quarter.
Right. Chicago used Gibbs and Montgomery to just exhaust the defense and control the clock.
Exactly. And San Diego piled up 203 rushing yards last week. So to answer your question about Mayfield losing Pickens, yes, losing a deep threat hurts. It allows the safeties to creep closer to the line of scrimmage.
Right. They can stack the box.
But this game isn't going to be decided by 40-yard bombs. It is going to be decided in the trenches with 5 minutes left on the clock. Which offensive line can impose its will when the defense knows a run is coming?
That's the real test. And as a quick aside, just to show how dangerous the WFL is right now across the board, look at the Detroit Wheels.
Oh, man, Detroit.
They are 3-9. They just beat Los Angeles. And now they get to play spoiler against a 9-3 Las Vegas team. It's literally being billed as the Travis Kelce revenge game after Detroit traded him to Vegas.
It is a great reminder that when a team is eliminated from playoff contention, pride becomes a very dangerous motivator.
Which is the perfect pivot to our Sunday night game. Because supremacy is usually about talent and tactical execution. But sometimes football is just incredibly personal.
Yeah.
We move from the heavyweights to pure emotional warfare, the Peyton Bowl.
Philadelphia, Birmingham, both sitting at 8-4.
The narrative here is cinematic. Philadelphia's head coach Peyton is returning to face Birmingham, his former team. And Peyton has been highly vocal in the media this week. Like, he is angry and he is publicly complaining about his Philadelphia players getting snubbed for the All-Star squad.
You also have a fascinating subplot with 2 rookie quarterbacks trying to solidify their franchise status here.
Yeah.
Drake May for Philadelphia and Bo Nix for Birmingham.
And the statistical contrast between these 2 rosters is where my mind was just blown.
Let's hear it.
So Philadelphia has the most suffocating defense in the league. They allow just 286.8 yards per game. They feature the best pass defense and the best red zone defense. They are a literal brick wall.
Unbelievable numbers.
And Drake May is playing efficient, mistake-free football. He threw for 243 yards to beat San Antonio last week.
They're totally built to choke out the opponent.
Right. But here is the statistical irony. Birmingham's pass defense allows exactly 286.8 yards per game.
Wait, let me guess. That's the worst in the league.
It is the absolute worst in the league. Birmingham's secondary gives up the exact same amount of yardage through the air as Philadelphia's entire defense gives up in total.
That is insane.
It is. And it gets worse for Birmingham. They just lost their starting safety, Cooper Elliott, and cornerback Mike Edwards Jr. to injury.
Ouch.
So I have to ask the obvious question. Can Bo Nix really overcome the league's most punishing defense when his own secondary is literally falling apart behind him?
Well, It is a phenomenal clash of team-building philosophies. Philadelphia is built on this bedrock of balanced elite defense and surgical red zone efficiency. When they get inside the 20, they score. They suffocate you, and then they execute.
Right.
Birmingham, by contrast, is high variance,
Meaning what, exactly?
meaning they have a great offense that averages over 375 yards a game so they can score in bunches, but their depleted secondary means they can give up points just as fast. It is a roller coaster.
Definitely.
Just look at their game against Baltimore last week. Birmingham built a massive 30-14 lead.
And then the floor completely fell out from under them. They surrendered the lead, went to overtime, and lost 33-30.
Exactly. When you are a rookie quarterback like Bo Nix, blowing a 16-point lead leaves psychological scars. And that brings us back to Coach Payton's public behavior this week.
The all-star snubs?
Right. You mentioned he's using the press to complain about those snubs. That is not an accident. That is a highly calculated psychological tactic.
You think he's manufacturing a chip for their shoulder?
Without a doubt. He is walking into his old stadium facing the organization he used to coach. He wants his Philadelphia locker room to feel disrespected and ferociously motivated.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. He knows Birmingham is fragile after blowing that lead to Baltimore. Payton wants to leverage his elite defense, fueled by perceived media disrespect, against a rookie quarterback who is prone to high-variance swings. It is brilliant emotional manipulation.
That is fascinating. And it really brings the entire slate into focus for you as you're watching this weekend. When you zoom out and look at Week 15, you see a crucible that dictates everything.
Yeah, from top to bottom.
Exactly. We started with the sheer desperation in Los Angeles, where Pittsburgh and the Wildcats are fighting for the draft capital to secure their future.
Then we looked at the desperate middle, where teams like Atlanta and Denver are trying to minimize catastrophic errors and exploit schematic mismatches just to keep their playoff hopes alive.
From there, we moved to the heavyweights in San Diego, where the games are won with brute force in the fourth quarter trenches.
And finally, the emotional warfare in Birmingham, where injuries and pride are colliding. Week 15 is the crucible that sets the reality of the offseason and the reality of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But, you know, as you watch these games unfold this weekend, there is one final thread you should really mull over.
What's that?
Look at the quarterbacks who are dictating the fate of the league right now. You have rookies stepping into massive moments. Drake May leading Philadelphia's efficient machine. Jaden Daniels running the show for Detroit and playing spoiler. Bo Nix trying to lead a playoff charge in Birmingham.
Right, the new blood.
And on the flip side, you have the established legendary veterans finding themselves in completely unfamiliar territory.
Like Mahomes.
Yes, Patrick Mahomes is absorbing 7 sacks a game and demanding a trade out of Pittsburgh. Joe Burrow is throwing 3 interceptions and blowout losses for Atlanta.
The contrast is staggering when you lay it out like that.
It raises a profound question. We spend so much time talking about specific matchups and schemes, but are we actually watching something much bigger? Is the era of the veteran quarterback giving way to a completely new generation right before our eyes? Are we witnessing a changing of the guard disguised as a late-season playoff push?
That is an incredible thought to carry into the weekend. I mean, the league isn't just shifting its standings, it might be shifting its entire generational foundation.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep those hidden narratives and mechanical mismatches in mind. Watch how these coaches manage the chaos, and enjoy a phenomenal weekend of WFL football. We'll see you next